Hello and welcome to our next video. In this lesson, we're going to download and install the Eclipse IDE. When I created this course the first time, I used NetBeans as the IDE of choice for demonstrating the videos. And so the original videos were all done in NetBeans. What I've found is that Eclipse is much more common in the real world for programming and has a lot more practical applications when you're going to do things like Android programming. And so I'm switching to Eclipse for the primary IDE. So at the time of this recording, I've currently started reworking the videos. And as the videos get reworked, the demonstrations will be done in Eclipse. But there's no reason you can't use NetBeans if you'd prefer to use NetBeans. As far as creating the code and working with the code, NetBeans is very easy to use, and the code is going to be exactly the same. You will have some minor differences in how you go about creating your projects, but it's nothing that you shouldn't be able to figure out. So you can choose whatever you'd like to use, but again, going forward, I'm switching to Eclipse because Eclipse is more popular in the real world once you get into the actual doing your job type of situations. And again, it seems to be a little more extendable at this time, at least for Android development, whereas I do not believe at this point NetBeans has a plugin for Android. Now, I could be wrong about that, but the last time I checked, they didn't. Make your choice and use whichever you're most comfortable with. In the end, Java code is Java code. So here we are at eclipse.org. I'm going to go ahead and download the Eclipse Luna version, which is the current version as of 2014 when I'm recording this video. So when I get my Eclipse, there are two choices. I can get the standard version, or I can get the Eclipse IDE for Java EE developers. Now, since the Eclipse IDE does not come with any prepackaged servers, I'm going to go ahead and get the IDE for Java EE developers. It has a few more options, and if you're going to go into JSP and servlets or some of the other enterprise level programming, this is going to be the IDE that you'll be using. But don't worry, because this also contains the standard version which we can easily switch between. So I'm going to go ahead and just download this again for Windows 64-bit, and it will give me a mirror that's nearest to me. And so I'm going to go ahead and get this download started. And it will ask me if I'd like to make a donation, and you don't have to donate anything if you don't like to. If you'd like to give them some money for letting you use Eclipse, that's great. I'm sure they'd appreciate it. It is open source though, so you do not need to pay anything if you don't want to. Again, it's going to take some time to download Eclipse, so I'm going to pause the video while this download completes. Once this is done, I'll restart the video and we can go about making the installation complete. All right, our Eclipse download has completed. So let's go ahead and open the folder. And what we're going to want to do is actually extract this. And we can go ahead and just let it extract to this directory. And it will take a moment to extract. So once again, I'm going to pause this while it extracts so you don't have to sit here and watch it. And again, you should be doing the same thing. Just pause as we go and restart the video when your extraction has completed. So here we can see that the Eclipse JEE Luna-R-132x86-64 has completed extraction. So I'm going to rename this, and I'm just going to rename this to Eclipse Luna. That way I'll remember the version, not that it's super important. And I'm going to go ahead and cut this, and then I'm going to go to my local C drive again and just paste my Eclipse Luna here. Now, I could put it in program files if that makes more sense, or in any other location that I so desire. Here I'm going to just keep it in my Eclipse Luna. And here inside of the folder, you'll drill in and you'll see here's eclipse.exe, which is going to be the program that I'm going to use to execute. So I'm going to go ahead and pin this to my taskbar so that I have an easy shortcut, and I can click on that to bring it up. You could also double click on Eclipse.exe anytime we want to go ahead and make that run. And so here I'm going to go ahead and start from my taskbar, and it will ask me if I'd like to do this. I'm going to uncheck always ask because every time I run this I don't want to have to recheck this. And also you may choose to run your Eclipse.exe. And one more thing, since this is a programming IDE, I'm going to go ahead and set the properties on this under Windows to run this as administrator. So that way I don't have to worry about creating folders and files later on. It will have the ability to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and apply that change. That means that as long as I have a shortcut pointing to this eclipse.exe, or if I double click this and run it, it will always ask me if I want to give it administrator rights, which I do, just so I have the ability to create folders and do things that an administrator would have the permission to do. And it's going to ask me, of course, would I like to give this administrator permission, because I told it that I want it to run as administrator. So I'm going to select yes, and I will have to do this every time I run the program, but it's a small price to pay to make sure that my program can create the folders and files that it needs to. Once again, the first time that Eclipse loads, it takes a moment, so I'm going to pause the video and I will start it back up when we get to the next window that pops up. All right, on the first run of Eclipse, the first thing it's going to ask us to do is create a workspace. Now this workspace is going to be where we're going to store all of our projects going forward. So it's very important to remember where you create this. In Windows, we could create this under our user account, which is a very wise place to put it. But what I'm actually going to do is point towards my Java projects folder. So that way I'll always have my Java projects in the same place. So here what I'm going to do is go to my computer, and under my C drive I have my Java projects folder. And so I'm going to go ahead and select that as my default workspace. And I'm going to also check use this as the default and do not ask again. Now it's very easy to switch workspaces later on should you desire to do so or to change the location. So I'm going to go ahead and just leave this checked, and that way I don't have to select the workspace every time I launch Eclipse. And you can see that Eclipse will continue to load. Once again, this is going to take some time. And there we can see that Eclipse has finally started up and we are ready to go with our Eclipse program. So we do have a welcome screen that gives us the chance to check on an overview of the feature, try out some samples if we'd like, go through some tutorials, or find out what's new with Eclipse. I'm going to go ahead and just go straight to my workbench here, and that's where we're going to create our projects. Now what I'd like to note is that I am starting out in Java EE view because of the fact that I downloaded the full EE version. So I'm going to switch my perspective really quick to regular old Java. And that's what we're going to be using for our course, just regular old Java. So once I do that, it just gives me a few different layout options and things that are going to happen with the Java program. And now we're in our Package Explorer over here. We don't have anything created right now because we haven't done anything with Eclipse. We could import that hello world if we wanted to, but what I'm going to do is just create my own new version of a Java project. And you can note that you could have also done that with Alt-Shift-N. It gives you the shortcut keys every time you're looking at menu items, so you should start trying to learn those as well as you go. And here I'm going to call this Hello World Eclipse. And so again, we have the option to change the location should we so desire. And we could actually change that, but I'm just going to use the default. And we can also determine what execution environment we want to use. So I only have 1.8 installed on this machine, but you could use other ones if you had them installed. You can also use a specific version of the JRE. If you had a previous update version, such as update 5 or update 11 from Java 8, you could have used that as well. We have the chance to choose a different project layout here. I'm going to go ahead and always create separate folders for sources and class files. Now this is really handy if you're submitting your work as well, because you really only need to submit the source files. And so I'm just going to leave that. And you can add working sets if you have any. We don't have any. Don't even worry about it if you don't know what it is. Not a big deal. You can select next if you'd like, or finish at this point. But I'm going to select next just to show you what happens. It basically shows you where it's going to create it, what it's going to look like, and you can, do some other options should you so desire. I'm going to go ahead and leave everything outputting to the bin folder, which is fine, and we're going to finish it. And that's the same thing that would have happened had we just clicked finish before rather than next, but I just wanted to show you there are some other options there. There's our Hello World Eclipse project. And right now there's nothing in it except regular old resources. So what I'm going to do is create a new class here. So I'm just right-clicking whenever you see Windows pop up like that. And here I'm going to select a new class. And I'm going to name this class Hello World, just like we had before on our manual program. And I'm going to actually stub in the public static void. We don't need any inherited methods at this point. So we'll just stub in public static void main string array args, and that way we don't have to type it. And let's hit finish. And here's our class, and the code should pop up in a second. And there it is, and you can see that it already has the Hello World main method stubbed in. I can hit tab, and I'll be right in the correct indentation. So I'm just going to say system.out.println, and then my quotes, so left paren, quotes, and here I'm going to say hello world from Eclipse. And we'll put semicolon on the end and save it. And you'll note we have syntax highlighting. If we have a problem with our code, it tells us right away that there's an error, which is awesome, and that's one of the huge benefits of using an IDE. Another huge benefit is I can push a button and it will compile and run for me, like this. And there you can see Hello World from Eclipse is running and working. So we have successfully installed Eclipse and we are ready to use it going forward. That wraps up our installation of Eclipse for our course. Thank you very much, and we will see you next time.